Hello, West Pacific Market Analytics, and it's Glenn here. And I just wanted to come in and do this crypto update because I think it is so important that people understand what's going on. I just see too much out there right now of everybody talking about what crypto is going to do, what crypto has to do, and I just had to do this report because I want you to understand that it is all technical. Everything's technical. It doesn't matter where it's crypto. It doesn't matter whether it's the markets. Everything has to trade to the trend, to the velocity, to the momentum, period. So we're going to take a look here quickly at crypto. I'm not going to go into, I can tell you exactly where price is going to be. I'm pretty accurately, almost on 100% where crypto is going to be in 2 or 3 years. And we're not going to go into that in this report, of course. I've talked to my members over on Discord about that to say, hey, look, understand this. And it's something we've been working on. I've been backtesting these ideas. I told you I've worked over 16 years on this new modeling system for the markets. It's completely outside of the box. It's something that no one is doing. And it's been a long road, and I've been working on this, and this year in 2026, I'm going to show you how it can absolutely deliver. And I'm talking with an accuracy that is pretty much unheard of. I'm that confident now in finally at last coming to seeing, understanding, and trusting. Now, it's not about hearing, it's about seeing. And so I'm going to show you that it's more important that you see it, not listen to all those talking about it that don't have a model. And it is all about having a model. And I'm not talking just a chart, okay? A chart to me is all these basic things I'm seeing thrown around on the internet, especially all over Twitter. What a cesspool over there. Great place, don't get me wrong. I'm glad we've got Twitter, as we like to call it, X now, which is what we should call it. It's a great place. It still offers a great forum to go and get information if you can just get through all the garbage that's over there and stuff that wastes your time. But let's not waste time on that. I'm going to come out and I'm going to do a market update as well. I want to talk a little bit about that. We've been talking over here on the member site of Discord, where we're going to go in just a minute. We've been posting here the trades. We're looking at a lot of trades. We're looking at a semiconductor trade short. We're looking at a trade short in finance. None of that looks quite ready yet. But we're looking very closely at some ideas. So we've been talking about that, and I'm putting that over here in the trades. Right now, we're going to be over here in the crypto miners, and I'll be talking that in just a moment. Now, if you want to get a hold of me, destinytrading@gmail.com to come on board daily. Here you go today. Here's just some of the stuff over here on our site that we were talking about. Here's the group chat over here where we're going over a lot of data models. Some members throwing a few things in there that had time. So if you want to come in, I'll talk to you about that. It'd be a great place for you to be this year. It's going to be much more trade focused, and would love to have you on board. So get a hold of me, destinytrading@gmail.com. I'll send you some info. Disclaimer quickly, these charts and updates are for educational and entertainment purposes only, as all is, because take your own risk. It's your responsibility to make that final decision, and there's so many outside factors at times that control short term where market price can go. Longer term, that's a bit different, but short term, just be very aware. It's very volatile, especially in the crypto space, and it's soon going to get very volatile in the markets as well. Have yourself a great weekend. So let's go into it here. Let's start out let's not go there. Let's just start out first of all with this one idea. Let's start by taking a look here. Let's look at XRP. Okay, now you notice here XRP right back in 2024. Okay, here's the signal to a low right here. Here's another signal to a low back here in 2024. But you notice that we were priced right here in what I call the V channel. Now these are all technicals that I have plugged into the software program and changed around the mathematics to all this. So what you're looking at in every one of these data models is something that the computer draws. I add in the notes here in a little bit, trying to get you to understand what the data is showing, but understand that everything we're looking at in each one of these data models is drawn by the software. And it's driven by algorithm math and physics-based, quant fund-based type of dynamics. And so you can see here in this channel back here, you notice how we're priced in the channel. And then again, we're priced in the channel, right? So we're priced correctly here, and then notice we had this huge breakout. Now that can happen because you can see how the trend just went ballistic and we rose up, and then notice how we worked over here. We worked into the trend, so we still got a very solid looking trend in XRP. You notice that the channel is now between this pink line, which is way up here, and this blue line, which is below here. So we're now priced correctly. But to rise higher, we would have to see the trend start back up. Now you notice right here the signal on XRP broke below this dark blue line. Now this dark blue line is controlled by this trend. This dark blue line here is a moving average that is controlled whether or not this trend can be above or below the middle line here. So you can see we closed up on the trend, allowing price now to drop below. It hit its target here. This S1 is a pivot level, and it hit that level, but it can go lower. And we've got a lower one down here, 41 cents. Could XRP go there? Yes, it could. It very much could go there. So these ideas that you're looking at, you want to trust what you see in the data. So let's go over here, and I just want to show you this right here. This is a crypto called Thorchain. Probably never heard of it. And I think in one of the future crypto reports, I'll probably put a bunch of these up here. There's about 50 alternate smaller coins that we can track, and I use those to back test the model for the larger top 10 sort of, or of course the top 4 crypto plays, that being Bitcoin, Ether, Soledad, XRP, etc. But you can see here that one time this was trading at $21. And you can see back here it was at 34 cents. Well, look what we're trading right now. We came all the way back down here to that 34 cents level. So we did a complete round trip, right? All the way back here in 2020. And here we are in 2026 at the price where it needs to price. And where does it need to price here? Back down to the V channel. And that's what it did. So what'll happen a lot of times is you'll get where the price explodes up like this. And I want to show you this Thorchain simply because we saw this explosion in pretty much the entire crypto sector when 2020 happened. They all went ballistic like this. This was the huge move in the crypto space. Look at that, 34 cents to 21, and we see that everywhere. And then what happens when you get these explosive moves, it pulls up the velocity and then it grinds sideways, either breaks down or trends sideways. So keep that in mind as I want to show you a few other things here. So let's look at Cardano. The gentleman in charge of Cardano, which is Mr. Grant Cardano of Cardano Capital. He looks like he says he's selling his $78 million jet. Well, he is probably doing the right thing, because if we look at that Thorchain model, you notice the price of Cardano here doing the same thing as that Thorchain. So remember, if we see a pattern work out, then it pretty much says that the pattern is going to work out in everything else. It may not yet have done that, but that most likely says something like that Thorchain will just might even go under and disappear. I mean, it's trading at a few cents now, and it could even go below, a penny. But you can see that Cardano, whereas its ticker is ADAUSD, they call it Cardano. It was a 0.1, it was a penny in 2020, and it rose up to $3. And you can see that same idea, right? It's had this explosive move higher, and then it flagged sideways. Because what happens is, and I should almost have included GME here, or GameStop, because GameStop did the same thing, right? It exploded higher in this pennant type formation, and then it flagged sideways, and now GME is breaking back down. And maybe I'll include that GME model in the technical report I'd like to put together this afternoon for the markets. I'd like to get that out today because I haven't done one in a while. You're going to see the same kind of idea. So what is this saying then? This is saying that most likely Cardano is going to go back to 1 penny. It's trading right now up here, at about 27 cents? Now, it's not just going to drop straight down, right? It's going to take this indicator, or this blue line, which is the trend indicator, it's a moving average, to slowly work down. So this could take a full year for it to get down to a penny, and it's going to have up and down moves, as you've seen it's had already. But at some point, I expect Cardano to be trading at a penny. So keep that in mind. Now, Cardano is a bit different. I consider it more like an altcoin type of stock. And you can see my theory being backed up here in my thought. So you notice again, out of 2020, here's our 1 cent going up to $3. What a move, right? It doesn't seem like much, $3, but if you bought it for a penny, just do the percentages, right? Oh my gosh, that's 100% times 3. That's 300, 3,000. Oh my gosh, that's just incredible, right? Just if it went from 1 penny to 10 cents, you're at what? 10 times your money? 100 times your money at $1? 300 times your money at $3? Not bad. Crazy, huh? Anyway, you can see then that we're trading here in the V channel, right? You see the V channel right here? And then notice the trend opened up right here. You see what I'm pointing to? And then we were able to rise above this moving average. So whenever the trend breaks up, we can move above the moving average. And then notice here when the trend broke down, you see it going negative, we broke below the moving average. And notice we stayed below the moving average all the way to right here. You see that? We had almost tried to break out right here, but it failed. You see that little pop up right there in the trend? And then finally the trend went positive when we rose above. But look how long it took to do that, right? Right here. This was 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, almost 2 years, 2.5 years. But notice we then came up, we came back down, traded in the V channel. Now, when I talk about the V channel, this is a computer-generated channel that measures velocity. Now, remember what you're looking at here is a system that I created. It took me 16 years of development work to get to where we are today. And as I was working on these ideas, each idea we would plug and play the math, the technical indicators, over and over again. And we might go 1,000 or more times of making changes in the data model until we figured out a system that was driving to our stated goal of 100% efficiency. In other words, where you can't lose money, or pretty close. Let's say 95%. And everyone said that can't be done. I said, well, everything can be done if you put enough time and effort into it. And we put 16 years into it. And so what you're looking at here in this velocity channel that we found and we plugged into the data is that we have two components. We have this blue component that moves like the tortoise. So you notice it's kind of more sinuous, moving like a wave. It doesn't move as erratic. And then you notice this other signals we call the directional of the circulation. So when the directional of circulation is moving down, or the directional circulation is moving up, and now the directional of the circulation is moving down. But just as important, of course, is this other component right here. You notice this became a bull cross and this became a bear cross. So this is called the momentum of the circulation, the momentum component of the directional of the circulation. Now we're talking about the circulation of the velocity, and now it's measuring the velocity of the capital flows, or the momentum of the buy and sell. So you can see once we get in, price then has to price into somewhere within the component of that channel. So in other words, you notice pink above, blue below, that becomes the channel, and we're pricing right in the channel. And then you notice when we broke down below the channel was now above. So you know price at some point is going to have to rise back into the channel. It did. It traded in the channel. It popped out, and then it started following down the directional circulation. Well, notice the channel is still below and still breaking lower. Thus, price is going to move back down into the channel. Cardano's going to go lower. And more than likely, it could have another little bounce back up, but going out into 2026, it's lower. So that's kind of what you're looking at. So if we take that idea, we can plug it into a lot of different things, right? So let's take a look quickly here. And then there's one other component that I didn't plug into Cardano, and I'll show you that in just a moment. That's just one idea. There's a lot of different ideas. So let's take that idea right now and look at Bitcoin. So you can see Bitcoin looks a little bit different, right? You can see, go back here into 2020, and again, though, we did have this same big spike rise up, right? So you notice in all the models, we've had this big spike rise up. I don't know if we're going to be able to get into all of the models. We're already at 14 minutes here, and I wanted to see if I could show you ETH and Solana. We'll at least get to ETH. I don't know if we'll have time for Solana. and we can maybe do that another day. But I just wanted you to understand what's going on here. So you can see that we had, again, the big move in Bitcoin. Here we went from 3,900 to 64,000. So all of them had this big spike move up out of the COVID and money printing episode by the Fed like this, where, all those PPP loans and all that money flooding in the economy was all buying Bitcoin. And then it flagged. Okay, now it flagged and it went up here. Okay, that's great. But you notice the channel being a little different. You notice our velocity channels continue to rise, right? So it's really not too bearish. And you notice back here, we were testing the bottom of the channel, testing the bottom of the channel before we had this big rise. And then, of course, you notice we sold back just like we looked at on Cardano, right here into the velocity channel. You notice we had this closed signal. We saw that same idea in Cardano. We had a closed signal. That happened in that 22 to 23 period. And you see how Bitcoin dropped below the channel. And then it opened back up. Right there, we rose back above. And notice we rose back above outside of the V channel. Now we finally, off of this top at 126, we've now plunged back into the V channel. And as of last week, we tested the gate. The gate was at 69,500. And you notice how the stick pushed below the gate but held, because lo and behold, we still have an open signal. With an open signal, we cannot break this gate until we get a closed signal. So ahead, if this somehow does not rally back up and trend and the gate closes, then we're going to drop lower. And the lower, I'll show you that in a moment. We've got the bottom of the dock here at 58,506, but it can break below that as well. It can't necessarily go too low too fast, because we can't just collapse away from the moving average. The moving average only allows price to either get too far above it. So typically the higher price is above, the more likely it is to come back down. As you see up here, it came back, worked its way back down. Or if it gets too low, it's going to have a tendency to work its way back up. So it acts as kind of a middle line for price, either being above or below. So yes, we can still drop lower, get below it, and then most likely come back up again. And over time, I'm talking 3 years here, this can work much, much lower. Now, how do I know that? Well, a lot of things have to happen. But because you can see the top of the V channel is still above 126,000. But we can only price back up to 126,000 when we look at another model. So here we go to a model that I call the measurement of velocity. So we're measuring this idea of velocity just in a different way. And I'm not going to get into the technicals of that, but it's the same concept. We're measuring the velocity of the momentum of the capital flows, and that is the buying and the selling component in and out of the market based upon a velocity trend. Now, a velocity measurement is not just so much measuring the direct capital flows, but more so the speed of what those capital flows can and cannot do. So you notice back here, when we could compare that to the model, and you can see some similarities in what price did. So you can see back here, we were at our low at 16,253, and you notice at that point we had the V channel above, right? So we have to price in the V channel even on this model. So we came back above. You notice that the whole time we were selling off here in that 2022 period, here we were dropping. You notice the velocity was coming out, the trend was coming out, and then price was trying to base here, and then it popped back up. And you notice that as that happened, trends started to rise. So trend typically will rise first. So you see as trend is rising, price is rising, rising V out of the low, right? So even as we are dropping into the velocity channel is rising. Okay, and you can see finally, after a certain point in time, you notice how the trend pulled it up, but it was still kind of flatlined for almost a year here. And then finally, the velocity kicked in. And velocity and trend rising together, price got aggressive, moving up. We had this little bit of a down move here because you can see trend kind of flattened down. We had a little bit of roll down here in trend. And what happens is if you get too far ahead of the trends, price is going to stall and wait as the trends continue to build. So as the trend continues to build, it then pushed price right up. You notice right here we topped out. So that was an indicator at some point we're going to top out. And notice now that the MOC, or the momentum of circulation, extending it into 2027 is going down. And you notice if we extend out the momentum or the directional circulation, eventually the momentum of the directional circulation will top out right around July or August, or the midpoint of 2026. So we can't get back up in that other model that we looked at, back up to the 100 here. We're showing at 123, but it's about 126. Again, we're using a line here instead of a candlestick. So it can't unless the trend pulls it up. So you notice right now the trend is dropping and the velocity is starting to drain, and we are now priced perfectly back in the V channel as of the close of this week. This is where we should price, right? But we can break below the V channel. That can happen, and I'll get into that in just a moment. So now we've got V below, whereas here we had V above, and we're now got the falling V out of the high. So here's the high falling back into the V channel, just like out of the low rising into the V channel or the velocity channel. So as long as this trend continues to break lower, you don't want to be a hero. And we're going to see. So we say to ourselves, well, how low could it go? Well, how low could it go? Let's take a look and see if I pulled up. Let's just quickly glance at my idea on that. Did I post it here? Here we go. Here's the long-term momentum model. Excuse me, that's ETH. I didn't want to show you that just yet. Let me see if I got that long-term. I don't think I put the long-term Bitcoin model up here because I didn't really want to share it here because it's not too pretty. But I can tell you this. We can look at it. Until we can see some changes in that particular model, as I was showing you, especially this one here, where this rolls back over and heads down. I mean, the price isn't just going to collapse. Talk to me once some of this starts to happen. But right now, it's nothing like this where it's weak, okay? So, but that's really important. So we're going to want to see. So then we get into two models on Bitcoin here, and you notice here we got a target of 98,797. That's where we are. We got that deep. So we got all the way down to 60,000 with the moving average or the gate still back up at 98,000 here. So this is a pretty wide gap. And you can see extending it out in time here, that would give us a couple of months now where we might just see some backing and filling in Bitcoin. But some things have to happen before we get that backing and filling. So we go here, and today you can see, I post this a little bit later, but we did reach it. 71,067 takes us back up here to the gate. You notice how the flows, we're going to have to see that change. The flows started to come in. You see how bearish the flows have been for about a month now? So first we got to get past this 71,000 area, and then that puts 80,675 in place. So we got to see. Now that 80,675 looks pretty strong to me. We got a very aggressive looking rollover here that will be hard to change in the velocity channel. So there's a good chance in the next couple of months, or even this one shows maybe only out for the next couple of weeks till a week or two out to the 16th, that we could now fill in this space right here as this works lower. So we're not ready to just drop lower yet. But that said, it can happen because you notice we're right down here. We can rally back up to the trend. The trend closed the week right above about 80,000. So since we see that trend at 80,000, that lends me to favor this particular model here into next week of 80,675. So we closed off the week at 71. We could still push up here to this 80,000 level, right? Not quite, but probably just below, up into the mid to high 70,000s. And I'd be a seller there because I think it's still going to go lower. Now, here's the ETH model long term. I'm going to tell you right now, the long-term model in ETH is ugly. It's projecting a 108 price, and that's all I'm going to say. So just be real careful about how you see things and how you go about trading in the crypto space. And I could show a lot more data models than just that. Those are just the ones I wanted to share. We look at some other stuff too, but we're all looking at what price can and cannot do. Now, as you can see, the top of that momentum channel was pricing us up around that high again at 126. We're going to see if that rolls over. I don't think we're going back up there. And if we were, it would take quite a bit of time. And it's not to say that it couldn't. I mean, we'll have to see what the trends want to do. But right now, it's got some more downside to work on, more so than it does upside. And then we're going to see how it develops into the coming months to see what it wants to do. So when you see these ideas of where Bitcoin is going to the moon, right now it could maybe go back to the old highs, but I don't see that anywhere in the picture. So just be very, very careful of how you look at things. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for tuning in. This is really getting long-winded now, so let's get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. If you got any questions also, you can always email me at destinytrading@gmail.com. Say, hey, Glenn, could you take a look at this for me? I'd be more than happy to do that. If you need me to give you some advice on something, I'd be more than happy to answer your question. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to protect people's wealth. I'm here to help people understand the markets and get the truth of really what's underlying the ongoing out there. And I'll get this other report out on what I see as far as the overall topping condition of the market. It looks very toppy here, but we don't want to rush it. I mean, there's still some points above. It could push higher. Until it rolls over, then you can't commit. But it looks very, very toppy based upon one key model, which we'll look at in that report that I'll have out for you later today. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time. Glenn out.